Today I'm addressing a request by one of our channel supporting members, Helen Wheels 1619. It took me a couple of weeks and I apologize for that, but the question is an area that I heard as evil about 40 years ago, but never really delved into, and there's clearly an anti-Semitic agenda that I don't want to fall into. So I wanted to be thorough in my probe, so I did my research, and then got the opinion of our own Susan Nachman for an Israeli viewpoint. Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are implying that Charlie Kirk was a victim to the movement, which, personally, I don't believe is accurate, based on some additional evidence that I've discovered supporting the fact that Charlie Kirk's assassination is a long-planned psyop. That video will be out this week, and it shocked me that there are coincidences that provide a strong foundation for the fact that Kirk's assassination was planned over 27 years ago. So be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss this one. It's about time to learn which podcasters are part of this controlled media operation. So here's the question that Helen asked, and my best effort to cut through the lies.
This is good to hear, and I've been meaning to ask you to address the issue of the president and all his predecessors sending millions of dollars to support the Zionist movement and contributing to genocide in Gaza.
The United States has provided Israel with more foreign aid than any other country since World War II, totaling approximately $318 billion from 1951 to 2022 alone. So this is an excellent question that is long overdue, and I'm grateful to Helen for bringing this hotbed issue to my attention. I love when you guys force me to work, so here we go. After weeks of looking into this, my findings are consistent with Susan's, so I'm first going to give you her answer, and then I'm going to embellish with some additional information that she didn't cover. So Susan Nachman said,
there has been anti-Semitism for centuries. The root goes way back to warring Anunnaki factions who took over the personas as gods and played humans against each other. The name Zion is pronounced Sion in Hebrew. T's is like Z's, as in pizza. Around 3,000 years ago, King David conquered a mount holding a fortress. This Mount Zion was later referred to as Ir David, or the City of David. It was later extended to Jerusalem. The biblical mount can still be visited today right outside the Old City in the eastern section of Jerusalem. The term Zion is a synonym for Israel, as is Eretz Yisrael, or the land of Israel. We Israelis just use the word Israel and reserve Zion for the more poetic or patriotic term. Although there was always a Jewish presence in Israel, many were exiled or fled during wars. The Roman Empire was responsible for much destruction and pillaging. In the 1800s, an Austrian-Hungarian lawyer by the name of Theodor Herzl began a movement for the return of the diaspora Jews to their homeland. He incorporated the biblical name Zion and called the movement Zionism. Israel was under the Ottoman Empire and later the British Mandate. The conditions were quite primitive, and only some pioneers returned to stay. During the turmoil of Tsarist Russia, a scapegoat was needed, so fabricated propaganda was introduced, blaming the Jews for war losses. In 1903, a book called The Protocols of the Elders of Zion was circulated with every typical stereotype, including Jewish world domination. This was the first negative usage of the wording. It once again was used by the Nazi regime starting in 1933 to scapegoat the Jews for economic issues. Side note here. Because Jews were forbidden in European countries to own land or join trade guilds, one of the only ways to make a living in the ghettos was to lend gold, or money, which led to banking. This is the probable core of the stereotype. Side note. Ashkenazi, or Eastern European Jews, are less than half of the Israeli population. There are more native-born, Mizrachi, or North African Jews, Sephardic, descended from Spain and Portugal, Ethiopian Jews, and returnees from North and South America. 20% are Arabs, both Muslim and Christian. Side note: there is a renewal of anti-Semitism due to the circulation of a story concerning a faction of Jewish converts. Some warlike tribe, I think in today's Kazakhstan, not completely sure, as the roots of Ashkenazi Jews. This is nonsense, and there are DNA tests to prove it. People throughout the ages were threatened or bribed to convert to many religions. The so-called enlightened spiritual or New Age community became so venomous, I pretty much disconnected and unsubscribed. Since the attack of October 7th, the same propaganda has returned under a new wrapper. The Jews, who make up less than 1% of the world's population, are blasted in the media for being colonizers, world dominators, and genocidal players. From its beginnings as a simple hill in Jerusalem and then a call for a Jewish homeland, today it is used literally as a curse word. Some of those using the propaganda are paid mouthpieces. The majority, especially the young people, know very little about anything. They are simply jumping on the bandwagon, and it is trendy to bash both Israelis and Jews. I think it's a sad state of affairs when people are going out to support Hamas. Yes, pro-Hamas, pro-Intifada. To the river, to the sea. Only they don't know what river, what sea. They don't know that Intifada means armed revolt. I would be happy to tell them how I narrowly escaped being blown up by a suicide bomber with 2 young children and my parents at a shopping centre. The only reason we are still alive is that my youngest daughter, 4 years old at the time, got a warning from her upstairs protectors. The term Zionist is used today just as the N-word was used for blacks, and nobody would dare tolerate that today. Always here to help to the best of my ability.
So there you have it, guys. Susan put it beautifully, comparing Zionist to the N-word. So isn't that odd that we can't use the N-word, but a bunch of podcasters are bad-mouthing Zionists? Zion is a biblical term for Jerusalem and the land of Israel. It's often used interchangeably with Jerusalem, but it originally referred to a specific part of the city. Based on 2 Samuel chapter 5, verse 7, Zion is believed to refer specifically to the fortified hill in Jerusalem, as Susan said. So Zion is sometimes considered the heart of Jerusalem, which is where Jesus lived, died, and was resurrected. As such, it's considered one of the most sacred places in the world. Zionism is rooted in Jewish hopes to return to their ancestral homeland as a refuge from the persecution that they have experienced. Now I'm going to address some concerns that many Americans and others around the world have about Jews controlling the world. The idea that Jews control the world with money is a centuries-old anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, with no basis in reality that I could find from an analysis of the wealthiest people in the world. First, you should know that none of the top 10 richest people today made their money in banking or investment firms. It's all about tech and specifically the internet, except for the 10th most wealthy man, who is Warren Buffett, but he's not Jewish. Only 2 of the top 10 U.S. financial institutions have Jewish CEOs, and even then, they're not controlling the world. BlackRock manages $11.5 trillion, and we all believe them to be compromised, but its leadership is diverse, and its biggest shareholders are institutional investors like pension and sovereign wealth funds. So you need to look deeper into the shell companies to find the truth. Jewish billionaires do exist. According to Forbes and UJA estimates, There are about 250 to 300 Jewish billionaires as of 2025 out of a total of about 2,800 billionaires worldwide. So that's 10% of billionaires worldwide are Jewish. Susan answered why Jews seem to be heavily embedded in jewelry and money assets, because they were forced to trade in gold, which led them into banking. So, yes, Jewish people are overrepresented among billionaires per their population share. But so are Indian Americans in tech, Lebanese in Latin American business, and Armenians in Russian industry. So let's look at some people that once were strong MAGA supporters who are turning against President Trump, namely Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson particularly, over his strong support for Israel amid Israel's strikes on Iran and ongoing Gaza operations. Their rhetoric now accuses Trump of prioritizing foreign entanglements, often framing it as undue influence from Zionist or pro-Israel lobbies. However, it's strange that neither has fully turned against Trump by endorsing his opponents or abandoning MAGA. They still defend his domestic agenda like tariffs and border security. Candace Owens has gotten very rich from these investigations calling Zionist influence into question, but she's never really elaborated. Do you remember when we have discussed Hangout disclosure? Well, I think that's what we are seeing here, and I don't know which side is funding it. So the fact that something is fishy about Kirk's death is the hangout of truth to gain your trust. Then they tie in the Zionist anti-Semitic rubric, and I don't know how this serves them, unless they are doing it deliberately to show people that there truly is an anti-Semitic agenda. Time will tell why they are stirring this hornet's nest. The other option is that they have both turned to the dark side. This isn't always deliberate. Sometimes somebody is poking them or feeding them disinformation. Another way it happens is blackmail, either with skeletons from the past or a deliberate trap. As far as Candace goes, it appears that she has had anti-Semitic beliefs for a long time, which is one of the main reasons that her and Charlie had a falling out. She was only with his organization for 2 years, and she is sure getting mileage out of it like they were the best of friends, but in fact, her last appearance with Kirk was in 2019, 6 years ago. Then there's the gut feeling, and I've gotten the feeling that Candace is a loose cannon that the administration wants to shut up. There is definitely a plan, and she has gained enough influence to throw a wrench in it. Charlie Kirk's last words to his bodyguard, the night before he died, was "Trust the plan." So I'm entertaining the idea that she is a loose cannon that is making it difficult for the alliance's carefully planned out movie to make this happen. Let's take a quick look. Candace alleges that Kirk faced intense pressure from pro-Israel donors, and then she has also thrown in the keyword Zionist influencers and figures linked to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. She repeatedly explains this pressure as coercive, describing it as blackmail, threats, and attempts to control his platform and views. I know for a fact that the deep state does try to control platforms when the influencer gets big enough. She says that Charlie was frustrated with Israel's influence on conservative voices, including his decision to platform critics like Tucker Carlson at Turning Point USA events. Her narrative portrays Kirk as a victim of a Zionist agenda that sought to silence his evolving skepticism toward Israel's actions, like the Gaza war, and Netanyahu's leadership. Indeed, Kirk himself has expressed concerns as evidenced by the following. Just days before his September 10, 2025 assassination, Kirk vented to Turning Point colleagues that a $2 million annual donation being pulled by tech billionaire Robert Shillman. In one verified text, Charlie wrote, "These Zionist donors think they own us. Pull the funding because I won't toe the line on Tucker? This is exactly the kind of control they're trying to buy, dictating speakers, events, everything. If we cave, TPUSA becomes their mouthpiece, not America's. So this sounds like a donor who happens to be Jewish, who threatened to pull his funding if he didn't bash Tucker for his anti-Zionist remarks. Owens has also claimed that Trump is impotent against Netanyahu and influenced by donors like Miriam Adelson, and she even speculated about Mossad blackmail via Epstein files. So it appears to be speculation, innuendos, and threads that she's desperately trying to tie together for the purpose of creating disruption in our working relationship with Israel and their ability to be an effective member of the Earth Alliance. There's a place for speculation during investigation, but you don't make accusations based on speculation. I used to really like Candace, but her recent reporting is irresponsible with an agenda, in my opinion. On Megyn Kelly's podcast, Kirk publicly aired grievances about menacing messages and harassment from pro-Israel bigwigs after he began questioning Israel's tactics in Gaza. Kirk allegedly turned down Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's proposal for significant funding to expand Turning Point's pro-Israel initiatives like campus trips and summits. In October 2023, Kirk rejected accusations of being an Israel shill or on the IDF payroll while highlighting his pro-Israel work. Kirk's overall record shows strong historical support for Israel, however. So it appears that somebody threatened to pull their donations because they didn't like what Charlie was saying about Israel. That's it as far as this issue goes, but Candace and Tucker Carlson have chosen to blow this into conspiracy narratives such as Mossad involvement. Is it possible? Sure. But it's a distraction. Then there's the genocide. This is war, not genocide. From what I've seen, Israel is the one that returned live hostages. They didn't publicly execute and torture hostages like Hamas did, so it's really important to evaluate for oneself rather than parroting narratives. As always, I went to number 17 to see if I could get anything there. What I can tell you is that number 17 never mentions Zion or Zionists. I did find a post about Israel that might be relevant, which is drop number 1015, posted on April 4th, 2018, and it reads as follows. Example: Gateway Bridge Project, which is often called the Gateway Tunnel or Hudson Tunnel Project, where over $30 billion was given out years ago, and nothing was ever done on the tunnel. X continues, $1.8 million, Cory Booker, Singapore. $3.5 million, Chuck Schumer, Israel. And $400,000, Chris Christie, Mary Pat U.S. Omnibus Bill, the gift that keeps on giving. Here's my thoughts, guys, on this one. Anti-Zionists are basically the same as pro-Hamas, which I believe it's another construct by the deep state to divide us. Remember, that's the goal. Divide and conquer from within. The fact that the 17 Post mentions Chuck Schumer, a Democratic New York-born Jew receiving $3.5 million from Israel, tells me that it's not a party or even an administration issue. It transcends that. Remember, always own both sides. Also, we know that in the United States there's an elected government and a shadow government that controls them, or at least tries to. If you think that the U.S. is the only country in the world with a shadow government, then you're still not getting it. So there is also a shadow government or Israeli cabal. While the shadow government chatter in the U.S., often known as the deep state, gets all the headlines, especially, this shadow government runs much deeper. Nearly every nation on Earth is puppeteered by invisible networks of elites, agencies, or even interdimensional forces. Recently I did a video about the medical-industrial matrix, which I'll link at the end. That was only one matrix within the matrix. There is also a government matrix, and this isn't a thing about countries, races, or opposing views against each other. That's the matrix. The truth is that this is a thing about humanity against this deep state that many have reported seeks to control and depopulate us. It's good against evil, God against Satan, All the rest is obfuscation. I'm not saying that we shouldn't question support that the US and President Trump have given to Israel. Questioning is critical. So let's take a look. U.S. support to Israel primarily consists of military aid, not pallets of cash like Obama gave to Iran. This is what they don't talk about, and the type of things we should be questioning. Regarding Trump during his first term, we gave Israel about $15 billion. During Biden's term, we gave them $26.8 billion, and so far in 2025, we've given them $12 billion. So when you follow the buck, you can see that whoever says that Trump is siding with Israel any more than a Democratic administration, then you know they are lying. Trump has given them nearly half of what Biden did. We must understand that money is allotted by Congress, not the president, and they are largely controlled by the deep state, so if it's the money that is your beef, look to the same people that close the government to get money for illegal health care. Candace hasn't been close to Charlie in 6 years, so I'm leaning towards her probing being more motivated by fame, fortune, or as a controlled asset than a genuine concern for the very topic that estranged her from Charlie. I would say that there's an excellent possibility that the same shadow government that controls us also controls Israel, and that they exert pressure on various people from any one of their thousands of organizations that will induce them to comply. For instance, if you are a devout Catholic like Tucker and Candace, the Christian-affiliated operatives could be used to influence you. In addition to the anti-Semitism that these two are stirring up, I also have concerns that they are implying that Israel had something to do with Charlie's death. There was no blood, guys. No videotape that caught the event except a confirmed AI video, so I'm still of the mindset that he's alive and is being protected. Whether the deep state tried to off him, I don't know. But if they did, it was ordered by the same people that unalived many others, and they have lots and lots of different names. Lastly, I want to address the relationship that the United States has with Israel. I don't know about Prime Minister Netanyahu. He's been in power as Prime Minister of Israel for multiple terms, totaling over 15 years, so I'm sure that he has some skeletons. But what I can tell you is that Israel has been more progressive on the extraterrestrial disclosure, and their infrastructure, quality of life, and medicine are at least equal to ours, or significantly better. But the fact remains that we are fighting a gargantuan matrix of hive-minded beings. They will continue their mission until they're unable, and that all comes down to money. So what are we getting for our money? Israel is of strategic importance to the United States because it's a stable, technologically advanced democracy in a volatile region surrounded by hostile actors. Located at the crossroads of Europe, Africa, and Asia, Israel is a forward operating intelligence hub, sharing real-time data on Iranian missile programs, Hezbollah operations, and global jihadist networks through joint task forces like the U.S.-Israel Operations Center. Their military innovations, such as the Iron Dome, cyber defense tools, and drone countermeasures, are battle-tested and rapidly integrated into U.S. systems, saving American lives and billions in research and development costs. Also, Israel's control of the eastern Mediterranean gas fields and its warm water port at Haifa, secure energy routes, and naval projection against Russian and Chinese encroachment. In fact, if you want to know who our biggest threat is, I'd say look to China, a massive population with one of the highest number of billionaires per capita. Politically, Israel is the only reliable U.S. ally in the Middle East that consistently votes with Washington at the UN and hosts American prepositioned munitions, which gives us rapid power projection without the political liabilities of basing troops in Arab states. In short, Israel functions as an unsinkable aircraft carrier for U.S. interests, amplifying American influence while requiring minimal direct troop commitment. So do I have a problem giving them money? Absolutely not. They are a critical ally that is crucial to the budding peace in the region finally. I'd rather give Israel military assistance to establish peace than giving condoms to gay Africans. So try not to get caught up in the rabbit hole. The last thing that the deep state wants is an alliance with Israel and the United States, because with United States might and Israel's influence in the area, there's a real chance for peace which would destroy their last pillar of power. This isn't about the narratives that the deep state has constructed. It's about real people just like you and I, with families. These people live in Israel, and they live in Palestine, and they just want peace. So for me, the whole Zionist agenda seems to be a red herring that the deep state uses to weaken our alliance to defeat them. Everything is dirty. It's nothing new. As I've mentioned before, you cannot just collapse the matrix. We'd all starve and there would be mass chaos. It's the matrix that our complacency built, and now we're gonna have to deal with these people. And when I say deal, I mean negotiate and work with them for the overall good. Our place is not to bully or look down on the rest of the world. It's to coexist and be an example of hope to others. There's only one enemy, and they control thousands of causes to distract us with.